Florida. Every election year when Florida came up, it was a competitive race there. I'm talking about it was a battle. It was always battle for Florida. I think, what was it, Tim Russert who said in 2000, Florida, Florida, Florida. That race came down between George W. Bush and Al Gore, and you had competitive U.S. Senate races. I don't know what the hell's happened to Florida now. Democrats have, I can't think of any other, actually I can. The only other place I can think of where Democrats have absolutely gotten destroyed and just flipped really is Texas. Now, Florida is not, you do have some folks who are elected statewide in Florida who are Democrat. Texas, they got everything. But look at the Senate race this year. You had a feckless Senator Marco Rubio, who was facing Congresswoman Val Demings. And Rubio gets 4.47 million votes. Val Demings gets almost 3.2 million votes. Folks, she lost by 1.2 million votes to Marco Rubio. That is a huge, huge number. And when you think about that race, then you think about the governor's race, and again, you had folks there in Florida who were talking about how it was going to be important. You've got Charlie Crist, former governor and former congressman, running, and people were saying, "Hey, man, this really could be it." Yo, he got straight ass destroyed by Governor Ron DeSantis. My next guest, she even tweeted how bad it was, how he got beat in some counties by other candidates. Go look at the numbers right here. DeSantis got 4.6 million votes. Chris got 3.1 million. He got beat by 1.5 million, a larger margin than Val Demings. Nikki Barnes, a political consultant, if y'all been looking at her Twitter feed, she's been just blasting the leadership of folks there in Florida, including the head of the Florida Democratic Party, Manny Diaz, and she posted this about an hour ago. Florida Dems chair Manny Diaz's email to the members of Florida Dems party leadership, doubling down on not resigning and running a campaign of grievances as to why. If you feel he should be removed, call your county Dem party leadership and insist they join the 67% needed to vote him out. Nikki, here's what I don't understand. I don't understand how you get beat down and then still be in power.
Yeah, I don't understand how you get beat down and still be in power either. That's a really, really good question. After the 2020 election here in Florida, Manny was elected to be the Florida Dems chair for our state on a rebuild platform. Familiar with Florida, that Biden lost Florida and it was blamed on money and resources and ground organizing and things needed to be done. And so Manny is supposed to come in and fix all of this stuff. And this has probably been our most vacant state party chair we've ever had. We've never seen him on TV. We never see him on local media. We never see him talking about anything to galvanize Democrats. And there's a lot going on in Florida. There's a lot to talk about to get earned media and make the case for Democrats here in Florida. And he said nothing for 20 months.
He claims here, he lays out all of these things that happen about nationally. Then he says, go to my iPad, Henry. He goes, but here in Florida, Democrats stayed home. And then he talked about the need to rebuild the party. He talked about lacking the resources and funding necessary to compete in Florida. We've lost ground to Republicans that can't be made up in a single cycle. We've lost 16 of the last 17 statewide elections since 2012. And our party has had 5 different chairs in the past 10 years. Now, also in looking at the letter here, he then tries to blame the national folks by saying national Democratic organizations made a determination about Florida. Funding and resources that have helped keep our state competitive were zeroed out and redirected elsewhere this cycle. While in the 2018 midterm elections, the national organizations invested nearly $60 million to Florida Democratic efforts. In 2022, their investments plummeted to $1.3 million, barely 2% of what we got in 2018. Dude, you just said we've been getting our ass kicked. If you're going to lose by 1.5 million votes for governor, 1.3 million votes for U.S. senator, ain't nobody going to give you any money. That's just a waste of money.
Exactly. And that's the campaign of grievances that I referenced in my tweet. You know, you got to give, first of all, Jamie Harrison has done an amazing job since he's been the DNC chair. And Jamie has been to Florida trying to help Florida get some sort of rebuild going. But what you've got to give the DNC, the DSCC, the D-TRIP, DGA, and any other organization that helps elect Democrats, you've got to give them something to invest in. Manny Diaz gave them nothing. He literally was like, just give us money and hopefully we'll figure it out. And the larger party was like, you know what? No, we're going to invest this where we know we can win more seats. The Democrats had a great night Tuesday all across the country because those states had plans to win. Florida wasn't part of that group because there was no plan to win in Florida. And I'm not going to let Manny scapegoat this because Val Demings was well funded. What's supposed to happen at the state party level is that the chair builds the infrastructure in the state to ensure that funding is invested into bringing out candidates. Val is an amazing candidate. So it's not a candidate issue. It is a state party infrastructure issue. Things that we did not have like we had in 2018 or in previous years when we came real close in those margins. And Roland, you're right. Charlie, I mean, there are cabinet candidates that got more votes in Broward, Miami-Dade, and Palm Beach County than Charlie Crist. Down ballot statewide Democrats outperformed Charlie Crist. That's on the chair of the party.
Manny Diaz, former mayor of what city?
Miami.
Didn't Ron DeSantis win Miami-Dade County, the first Republican to do so in 20 years? So basically the chairman of the Florida Democratic Party couldn't even hold his own damn county.
Not only couldn't hold his county, let's go back to why he was elected over a Black woman who ran for chair 2 years ago. The issue in Florida was we've got to get the Hispanic vote back. And for whatever reason, these Democrats believed, yes, we neighbor Georgia, we need a Stacey Abrams, but we got to get these other voters in Miami back first. So what better way to do that than to elect a Cuban Democrat from Miami? Now, how did that work out on Tuesday?
Wow. That is crazy. Now, before I go to my panel with questions, we also have some drama here where Donald Trump, who is so pissed off because his candidates got drubbed, he's been tweeting up a storm, and he acted a fool by suggesting that he sent in the FBI and the DOJ to stop vote counting in 2018 to help Ron DeSantis, who only beat Andrew Gillum by 30,000 votes. Nikki Fried, she, of course, has already sent a letter asking the DOJ to investigate, to request an official response to the wild allegations made by a Florida resident last night claiming credit for the outcome of the 2018 election of Ron DeSantis and Rick Scott. You've also been raising the questions as well. Now, granted, we know Donald Trump lies about lies, but someone got to pay attention to him suggesting that he sent them in to stop the vote counting. And it worked.
Yeah, absolutely. That's absolutely. You know, Donald Trump runs his mouth and we like it, right? But we can read that message and we can see what he's telling DeSantis. He's telling DeSantis, you owe me. I made you. You only won this seat because I endorsed you. I campaigned for you. And then he's taking it one step forward and saying, during that recount, I fixed this for you. So how dare you try to act like you're going to lead the Republican Party after I made you. So we get what he's saying, but for us that are on the ground here in Florida who works for Andrew Gillum, oh, we a little salty right now. What do you mean you fixed it? What does that mean? What do you mean you sent folks in during the recount? What does that mean? And then you go back to the previous tweets from Marco Rubio and Rick Scott trying to accuse Democrats of quote unquote stealing an election. But now Trump says he fixed it? What does that mean?
It definitely needs to be investigated. Let's hear questions for Nikki for our panel. Deanna, you're first.
So, Nikki, my question to you is, what do you think went wrong as far as the ground game? And what strategies do you think the party on the ground needs to employ to make sure something like this never happens again?
Yeah, so in Florida, what went wrong was not having a ground game, right? There was a severe lack of enthusiasm with the candidates that came through the primary, right? But there wasn't unity amongst our statewide ticket to try to bridge that gap. There are going to be areas where Val Demings is very popular. She needs to campaign in those areas. There'll be areas where Charlie Crist is very popular. He needs to campaign in those areas. And the down ballot statewide ticket, the same thing. The goal is to bring your collective base together to get Democrats across the finish line. And we didn't even see the turnout we saw 4 years ago. Democrats stayed home in Florida.
Of course, you also have Republicans that have invested heavily in registering people, and they've actually surpassed Democrats. Democrats used to hold a lead for more registered voters in Florida. Now they no longer have that particular lead. Michael, your question.
All right, Nikki, I've seen stories about the community outreach centers that the Republican National Committee has put in Florida, and I think in Arizona also, to do outreach to the Latino, to the Hispanic community. Can you talk about the type of success they've had with things like that? And also, the Democrats had the problem, especially in Florida, of looking at the Hispanic community as like one community and not understanding the differences when you have Cubans, Colombians, things like this. Can you talk about the difference in the where people are coming from, the different countries, some of the differences in the Latino community as well? Because Democrats keep making this mistake election cycle after election cycle.
Yeah, so people are aware Florida has a very diverse Latino community, right? So we have the Cubans, the Venezuelans, the Puerto Ricans, the Colombians, Dominicans. They're not a monolith. And they're not all here in Florida for the exact same reason. So what the Republicans have done very well here in Florida is they've acknowledged you're here for better. Very simple, right? And so they've put these centers in place in various parts of large immigrant communities, trying to teach them what it means to be here for better. What resources we have, how Republicans are going to help you. And they kind of tie into that, that narrative of you left where you came from because it's better here. Let me show you how to be better here in the state of Florida and why you want to be a Republican here. And they've been very successful at hammering that message and getting people to vote for better by sharing resources, educational pieces, helping people find housing and everything else. So the Republican Party will make you think that they're against immigration on a national level, but in Florida, they are very pro-resource to those communities. Whereas Democrats, specifically in the Miami-Dade area, where we're going wrong is our Democratic Party in Miami is very left progressive ideology, right? And so they're meeting these people in their communities and they're talking about, social issues, Medicare for all, and they're knocking on doors with T-shirts on, with fists in the air that say Latinx. And these people are coming from countries that had leftist regimes that were hostile. So when they're being met by these Democrats, they look like who they fled. And so
Right.
that reinforces the vote for Republican in South Florida.
That's why that democratic socialism stuff doesn't go over well with a lot of Latinos, like Cubans in Florida.
That's why they can get away with calling us socialist, socialista, comunista in Florida, because you have a young person that says Latinx with a fist in the air. And Republicans, they bite on that. They said they're communists. They're leftist communists. And they vote accordingly.
All right, thank you.
Matt?
Well, I was going to actually ask something kind of similar. I'm in Texas, and I think they make the same mistakes as it relates to Democrats and Hispanic folks here in Texas. Well, my question is kind of two-part. One, what did you see in terms of the abortion messaging, and what, if any, effect did that have on anything? And then going forward, how do Democrats change the messaging in Florida, specifically using what you just referenced in terms of the regimes that they fled, to make more targeted and more effective messaging? And I ask that because I think Texas can learn a lot of those same lessons, considering the demographic here.
Yeah, so when Roe was overturned, and that was during our primary here in Florida, I think it woke a lot of voters up, right? It said, wait a minute, we're going to have to get out here and vote. Now I'm paying attention. Who are my pro-choice candidates? How can I make this argument? But since Roe was overturned, one thing that DeSantis does very well in Florida is creating constant chaos. So other things come up since Roe, right? We had a major hurricane in this state. Homeowners insurance companies bail out of this state. Housing got out of control once again. People were dropped from insurance. Just a whole bunch of other chaos happened. So it put Roe on the back burner for now, because Florida still has a 15-week limit. And so when people were talking about, zeroing out abortion altogether and not having that right, voters were looking at that like, well, in Florida, I still have 15 weeks. But today, I have no homeowners insurance because I got canceled. So I'm going to deal with that in the next session. I need solutions for right now. And so, you got to continue with the public sentiment of the state. Yeah, it was a big national issue, but in Florida, in the university areas, maybe more of a concern, but even not so much of that because the students didn't turn out to vote. It's been a housing crisis and low wages in Florida. And that's where the party should have pivoted and hammered down about how we're going to ensure you have more money in your pocket going into the new year.
All right. Well, we will certainly see what happens. You have made your feelings known regarding Manny Diaz. And so one of he'll be giving you a call soon, asking for advice.
I doubt it.
Nikki, I appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
All right, folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment.
We are in sunny South Dallas. The election is coming up. It's super important that folks know who they are voting for, but more importantly, what they are voting for. Y'all, we got the free shirts and free lunch right over here.
Freedom is our birthright. No matter what we're up against, we're sending a message in Dallas and Texas and in this country. We won't back down. That's what this bus tour is all about.
The housing cost is one of the most capitalized areas that we have found. People who are marginalized, that are brown and black, we are suffering the most, and I think that we have the biggest vote and the biggest impact in this election.
I'm voting for affordable housing, for sure.
We should not be paying the cost of a utility failure because our elected officials are too proud to say we need help.
I know that we can bring out our people to vote. It's a part of our birthright. Right. It's a part of our heritage. And surely it's a part of our present and part of our future.
That's right. That's what's up. And we won't black down. Forward that message to 5 friends, because in that message, it's got links to how to get registered, how to check your registration status.
Like I said, 2:30 we'll start rendezvousing right here on this street.
I am voting to let our voice be heard in the rural communities that, hey, we are people too. There are things that we need.
Free shirts, free food, and lots of power.
We are in Longview, Texas, where Black Voters Matter, 365.
Whatever type of oppression a white supremacist throws our way, we will not black down. We are in relentless pursuit of liberation of our people.
Freedom is liberation for black bodies and black communities to make economic change through political power.
Freedom is choice.
We won't black down.
We won't black down.
We won't black down, y'all.
We won't black down.
We won't black down.
We won't black down.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Hold no punches. I'm real revolutionary right now. Black power.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?